Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the lecture for the month of July 2015, and it's called Phrasing with Tempo. Now, if you are as excited about animation as I think you are, then this will be a great lecture for you, and here's why. All along, ever since I started the Anim Gym, I have been giving you guys the encouragement I think you need to take tempo to the next level. And what that means is, with these physical tests that we've been doing in the Anim Gym, it's easy to create your tempo pass and to create basically like the straightforward phrasing of a simple action. But now what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you how basically how to take, if this were the Karate Kid, how to take the wax on, wax off motion and to apply it to the real, karate. Okay? So in animation, what that will mean is I want to take it from this moment where you are basically able to bang out 3-second shots with tempo and see what it's like to create a longer shot out of these motions and to phrase it in such a way that your tempo pass is basically you just going through the exact same motions as you would for, like, if it's a 10-second shot, just going through the motions of doing 3 like Anim Gym exercises in a row. And to do that, we are going to do an 11-second club shot together. All right? Now, the reason that this lecture is coming out in August is because I had to wait, because I want the 11-second club to also see this process. And I'm hoping that a few people from the 11-second club, and if you came over from the 11-second club, hey, how are you? Glad you're here. Welcome to the site and to the show. I wanted to make sure that everyone was going to be interested, and if it's happening within 1 month, are people going to be interested? I think so. So we're going to do the August 11-second club together. All right. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to apply tempo to an 11-second long shot. And I'm going to show you how all this practice that you've been doing, hopefully, on these small, chewable, digestible bits of animation in the Anim Gym can be strung together and applied to a much longer and a performance shot. Okay? And it's really very simple. It's very easy. It's very fun. You're going to enjoy yourself, I think, very much so on this. Okay? So your first instincts are normally correct. So we're going to take a little bit of time to do just some extra planning, and I'm going to, because I feel like we have to listen to the audio a few more times and all that good stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and listen to the audio just a few more times, and I'm going to go through some of those issues with you. Okay, here we go.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap.
I understand.
Let me finish, okay?
Okay.
All right. So at first blush, this sounds like an audio clip that has a pretty straightforward message in it. And the relationship sounds very father-daughter to me.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap.
I understand.
Let me finish, okay?
But then I thought to myself, you know what? What if it's not a a father-daughter relationship? It says Jimmy, and it sounds like Jimmy is like her brother, and who would print out something for somebody else if it wasn't like for the family? But what other kind of relationship could it be that is very emotional? That for him to be like concerned that he's doing wrong by her by continuing to enable her. And then I thought, you know what would be really funny? What if he is her hairdresser and he is cutting her hair and this emotional handicap is just that like she is just not letting him. He's like misinterpreting her not liking the haircuts that he gives her as being an emotional handicap. So that's the relationship that I decided on. So that's what we've settled on here. And I think it's going to be funny that he printed out some guy named Jimmy printed something out from Yahoo Health that is all about this weird relationship that these two have.
Okay.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap.
I understand.
Let me finish, okay?
Okay.
And then when he says, let me finish, we're going to cut to the wide. So it's going to be kind of tight, but then we're going to cut to the wide, and we're going to see that it's this crazy haircut that's awful. And that's why he's saying, let me finish. It's going to be a double entendre. Not just let me finish the haircut, but also like, let me finish my sentence, and it's going to be sort of like leaning towards the haircut as well. And also, there's so many anchors in here for her. So many little like croaks where she's about to start to say something.
Cannot continue to support your...
Hear that?
To support your emo... Continue to support your... Continue to support your... Continue to support...
Hear that?
Continue to support your...
Okay, there's one back here.
An article from Yahoo Health. It was all about...
Hear that?
It was all about health. It was all about health. It was all about... Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
And then a breath.
Enabling. And I really...
That's her. In that silence, that's her taking a breath. She goes like that. Listen.
It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap.
I understand.
Let me finish, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, So here's what I have. I'm going to have the hairdresser enter and pick up the sheet of paper, bring it to her. We're going to cut on that action. It's going to be in front of her face, and she's going to pull it down and make that anchor. And then we're going to cut to the wide and see. It's a crazy haircut. In fact, let me just. Go like this. Just so that when we are doing the staging of this, I'm sure that I leave enough room for the haircut itself. Okay. Okay. Now let me just apply the her hair color to it. Which one is her hair color? Is it this one? Yeah. Okay. Just something crazy. Okay. So here's the very, very, very rough camera layout.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap.
I understand.
Let me finish, okay?
Okay.
All right. So he's mostly going to be over here. He's going to be on the process of entering screen. Remember, in these 11-second club shots, you're remember that you're supposed to be animating a shot that's in the middle of a film. And so if you have a completely blank, frame when you start, that kind of betrays you a little bit. It kind of shows that you weren't quite thinking that this is in the middle of a scene, because you would never, hardly ever, I should say never, you would hardly ever have a completely blank shot and a character just enters. That you normally save that for the beginning of a scene. But if you're in the middle of a scene, which is obviously where this line comes from, you would hardly ever have a completely blank frame and have somebody just enter. You're normally cutting on action. Okay, so I'm going to have him entering here, but we'll get to the tempo pass in a second. All right, because I want to show you guys exactly how it is going to play out. And for the people who are watching, who are new to the site and haven't seen any tempo animation so far, the thing that is the most important thing to remember about tempo is that your timing, once it's worked out, will be the real foundation upon which you build your fantastic animation, because really strong timing can support almost any posing that you throw at it, but it's not the opposite. All right? So if you rely on your posing to give you your fantastic animation, you're kind of going against the definition of animation, which is movement. Okay? And the strongest poses in the world cannot have almost any timing choice thrown at it. All right, so we do it in the opposite order here at kennyroy.com. All right, and that's what tempo is. So I'm really happy that you're here. Maybe if this is starting to get a little confusing, what you should do is check out some of the other tempo lectures. Animation with tempo is the first one, and maybe go from there. Okay, so we have the what do you call it? The countertop here in the mirror, and so I want him entering, and so he's going to start by coming in and reaching for this this piece of paper that's right here, and I want him to basically come up to the countertop and be sort of captivated while he's reading this thing, right off the bat, meaning he's got it, and he's kind of definitely stopped everything that he's doing, to look at this. All right, so I want to kind of bunch him up a little bit in this part. Okay, so this arm will be kind of bent like this, and I think probably he'll have his other stuff, his comb and scissors sort of in this hand. I'm not going to worry about those props right now. It's really not important. Okay, so he's going to be talking about this, and then there's going to be a moment where he turns, and on that turn, I really want there to be this sense that he is, because the line, he's going to turn on the word enabling. Okay, so right here he's going to go enabling. Jimmy printed me out this article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And on enabling, I want him to kind of turn and take on a pose that almost feels like he is, that she's never heard this word before, and he has to emphasize that word. Because when I listen to the line, listen to it again, when I hear that line, I almost hear a little bit, not condescension, but sort of putting a fine point on it. And the funny part is that it's clear that he's the one that has never heard this word before. And he's talking to her about it as if she hasn't, but it's really him. Listen.
An article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap.
I understand.
Let me finish, okay?
Okay.
And this shot is so neatly broken up into 3 phrases. It's so neatly broken up into. There's a little bit of a beat within the second phrase, and there's a couple beats because he has to kind of keep on steamrolling her while she's speaking. But at any rate, this is so neatly broken up into phrases that tempo in the work that you've been doing on like these 3-second shots, it makes perfect sense. And if you look at this, look at this section. You know, it's about 80 frames long. It's got some handle on it. And then this one is about 100 frames long, and then the last part is about 70 frames long. So it's so neatly digestible and doable as these 3 shots. And I really want you guys to see how much your practice lends itself to working quickly on shots like this. But at any rate,
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
And there's these very easy beats to feel on this, but we'll get to that in a second. It was all about enabling, and I want him to do like this little bit of a turn on here and sort of take on, you know, this pose where he's kind of leaned over, okay, and he's still got this, and he's holding it out like this, and maybe the scissors and the comb are over here. And I want him to be a little bit leaned forward on this. All right. So like that. All right. So he does a little bit of a turn on this. All right. And a little bit of a lean as well. All right. So he's sort of leaning, pushing towards her. Then we come up here. In the next shot, he's going to exit, and this piece of paper is going to be in her face. Okay, so we're just basically going to see, you know, ears and eyebrows and hair right here, and her hands on the piece of paper, and then she's going to bring it down. Okay, so the paper goes down, and she's going to be, we're just a hair off of center, so she's going to be looking, what would it be for the 180 line? Just a little bit off and to the right. And starting to like express that she wants to say something. All right. So okay, you know, she's starting to feel a little bit crazy about this haircut, right? And then we cut to the wide, and he's already set up. I want to do just a little bit of a physical joke where she's sitting there, you know, in the chair. All right. With this crazy haircut, and he's already set up in this funny pose. He's all stretched out, and And he's like, just about to make like this one, like, big snip with the scissors. And she's sitting there like that. Okay. So this can be a little bit stronger. We'll just push this line a little bit. And up like that. Okay? Something like that. Now, when it comes time now to decide our phrasing, it's important to remember that what tempo gives you the best, what tempo offers you the most of over any other workflow is the opportunity to experiment. Now, how are we going to delineate these phrases? Whenever I'm looking at beginner animation, the thing that is like the most clear is how much the animator is struggling to keep their ideas that are separate ideas separated. Because normally what happens is you come up with what are really strong poses, and you're posing your character out, but you don't have anything for the in-between stuff. The quiet moments, the moments that don't really beg for a really super strong pose. So you have like pose A and pose B, and then like these are two separate ideas, but then in between you're like lost. You're like, what am I gonna do now? And what ends up happening is anything that doesn't look like a super strong pose looks like just muddy mess. Because you're just like smoothly blending between two different things, aren't you? Okay? So that's what ends up becoming a problem. That movement towards timing as your most important aspect to solidify right off the bat, instead of posing, means that you can afford to experiment with your phrases and not stop, basically, until you are absolutely, totally happy with the phrasing. And no one's stopping you. Okay, you can experiment until you are blue in the face. All right, and that's what's powerful about tempo. All right, so whenever I get animation and I say, and I've said this in Anim Gym critiques before, you need to more clearly delineate your phrases. You separate your ideas. It is a much better problem to have extremely separated, kind of like almost like islands of ideas that you have to figure out how to blend together than to have just like one big blended, mush that you can't separate. Much better problem to have. All right, so we're going to jump back into Maya, and we're going to set this up with tempo. Now let's listen to the line one more time.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
There's this thing that I like to do that kind of is a gestural feeling of the phrase, or sorry, of the energy of the shot, and I just like to take like a pencil and just like feel the energy. So let me loop this, and I'm going to do one, and I'll show you what I mean.
And I realized at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap.
I understand.
Let me finish, okay?
Okay.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap from Yahoo.
All right. So it's Jimmy printed me out an article. So it starts off with a little bit of a jump, and then it's this up and down. It was all about enabling. All right, so that we really need to feel that drop of the energy, because it's a delivery, it's a payload of energy.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
Okay, do you feel that?
And I realized at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap.
So I realized at that point, you come down, I cannot continue to support, and we start climbing again, your emotional handicap. We go off on another ledge. All right, so on the second thing, and I realize at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap. All right, so a jump up, and then we kind of build, and we deliver a payload. Same thing again. All right. The phrasing, the separation of the beats of this should follow that exact same feeling. Okay, tempo allows us to do this so easily. Now I have my rigs already sort of loaded in, but what we're going to do is we're going to go just all the way back to tempo. Okay, all the way back. Now let me just make sure that the rigs, that everything is loading in fine. It looks like I pulled the material from a thing, and this has a foster parent now. Yeah, I always thought that was funny how they called it foster parent. Anyway, so we're going to just we're just going to build this tiny little helper object that represents this dude, and we're going to do our tempo pass with him. All right. Now remember, what the point is with tempo. You're trying to get as fast as you can to the correct timing. All right. So what I'm going to do is I think there's just a tiny little bit, not really posing, but just a little bit of body language that I want to include in this, and so I'm going to parent this guy so that I can move this one around and just do a little bit, just a tiny little bit of movement on that fake head. Okay, so remember, I always use clamped tangents, and then enable stepped preview is the name of the game here. So he's going to be entering as the shot starts. Okay. And he's going to scoop up this piece of paper, which we should make. Okay, let's also give it a material so we can tell what the hell it is. There we go. How come I can't change the color here? I can't click on any of these. That's weird. Anyway, okay. So we're not going to worry about placing this just yet, but anyway. So he comes in. All right, and so he goes up on that. Remember, Jimmy printed me out. All right, so he comes in, and let's have him arrive and be looking at this thing. Now let's what I'm doing is I'm using period and comma to make sure that there's keys on every frame that are the same for these two objects. Okay, so he's looking down at this thing. And it would help if it was in the right perspective. Let's put him where he actually needs to be standing. Here we go.
Jamie printed me out an article
from Yahoo Health. Okay, so we're going to have just a little bit what I call a beat, which is he's going to work within that pose from Yahoo Health. All right, and just what I did. Okay, now we can always tone it down. If we go a little bit too like on the words, then it's so easy to buff that down and to reduce the amount that is playing into the animation. It's silly. It's so easy to do that to not go overboard with your first pass is basically the quickest way to make your shot take way longer than it ever has to. Okay, let me repeat what I've said many times before. If you want to compare animation to anything, it's the most like fishing. Okay, you cannot push your animation week to week to week to week to week and expect to ever get any fish. Okay, because you don't drop your hook in the water right in front of you and then push it towards the fish. You cast it way over the fish and then you drag it through. You bring it back. You reel it in. Okay, in animation, it's the exact same thing. You got to reel it in. Okay.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health.
From Yahoo Health. All right, so let's just put a little bit of resettle in the pose. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Yahoo Health.
And by this point, he's no longer looking at it. He looked at it. Jimmy printed me out this article from, and he turns just a little bit of a reset from Yahoo Health, and he's not looking at it anymore. But like the fact that he has already sort of picked it up, acknowledged it, focused on it, we get what this is, and then we can sort of start that motion where he's going to bring it to her face, as if this is like you know the word of God or whatever.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about.
And now we're going to do that motion where I planned out. Where is it? Where I planned out what he's going to do is he's going to really like turn and show her and like say the word like enabling, like he's almost going to mouth it. Okay, so we can push where the what the audience hears by sort of gently pushing them in the right direction with some exaggerated animation, some exaggerated posing on this. So I know that the posing is going to be essential, but I'm going to work out that timing first. So instead of toning it down, it's all about enabling. See the way I did that? It's all about enabling. I'm going to have him go, it's all about enabling. So, like, look at my mouth almost. So just if you exaggerate it, you can make them hear, you can make the audience actually hear something different. Because one of the rules of thumb is that the audiences, we as humans, we rely so much on what we see. So much so that our brain will make us like hear a different thing depending on what we see. Okay, we will change what we think we're hearing so that it works with our eyes. Okay, so if I change them to be like enabling. If I really push that enabling, it'll seem like he's, to the audience at least, that he's really laying it on thick. It was.
all about,
It was.
it was all
It was. All about. Let's bring this around. Start bringing this around. Indeed. You see that? See how overboard I'm going here? And we're gonna cheat it a little bit to camera as well.
and I realized at that point I cannot.
Okay, he's gonna hold that, and then we're gonna cut on him walking out. And I realized, feel that energy. So it's almost timed for you. And I realized, anticipation, motion, down, up, right? Even in the tone of his voice. And I realized it's timed for you.
And I realized
And so let's have him. All right. And then he's going to stand straight up and start walking out. And this should come with him. And he's going to drag it up to her face. At that moment, head tilt the other way.
point.
And then definitely by the cut, he's walked it all the way up to her face. And this is right. And this needs to be right here in front of camera. And she can be holding it. And I'll fix the camera just a little bit so that this is in front of her. So he's going to continue over here.
Continue to suck. Your emotional handicap. You report your emotional handicap.
And then in this, crazy pose where he's going to be, leaning forward, just about to make a crazy cut to her hair. And she goes, and he's like, let me finish.
I understand.
Let me finish, okay?
Okay.
All right? All right. So.
Jimmy printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap.
Okay, so let's see how this is working so far, and we're going to jump into what is the the first phase of tempo where you are concerning yourself with keeping those phrases very clearly delineated and taking the time to iron those things in before it's too late. Basically, strengthening your foundation of timing so that they will bear the weight of any pose that you put on top of it. Because we want you to get to the point where you can slam on any pose that you dream of. Okay? Because you want that strong posing. We want you to get to the point where you are confident that your timing choice will bear the weight of your awesome posing. Okay? So if you don't take what tempo gives you, if you don't accept that gift graciously, then you might as well not even use tempo. You're just going to continue to end up with animation that is just way too blended together. But let's watch this and then dive into that first phase of experimentation.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot continue to support your emotional handicap.
I understand.
Let me finish, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
Okay. My initial sort of feeling when I watch this is that there is not enough the size of some of these little like adjustments, these little beats, is not big enough, and the timing could be stronger. So I'm just going to do a tiny little bit of push on all of them across the board, so that when I also play with the timing, we're getting a little bit better results as well.
Jamie printed me out an article from...
So just push some of these just a little bit more.
From Yahoo Health, it was Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
Okay, just keep on, just push these a little bit.
I realized at that point, I cannot continue.
Okay, here we go. Let's watch it. And now we can make those timing choices. And anyone that knows or has seen any of the tempo lectures knows what tool I'm going to use right now to make this stronger. It's the dope sheet. Dope sheet is the dopest sheet that there is. But let's watch it one more time, sort of with our eyes as fresh as they can be, and immediate, like, get our gut reactions here.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot...
Okay. My initial reaction is pretty positive, but there are ways to make this even super stronger. I think that some of the holds can be stiffer, and I think that some of the transitions are too long. So let's go into the dope sheet. Let's go to let's view the scene summary. Okay, because there's there's only keys on the things that I need them to be right now, right? And the dope sheet is really easy to zoom in and out of. Okay. So let's watch this again.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was...
So definitely on the Yahoo, this should be like a much quicker moment, I think.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo.
Okay, so let's move. Let's move this just. Let's just try that. Now, again, if you've never seen any work with tempo, this might seem a little bit crazy to you, but what we do is we make the adjustment and then we watch it like an audience member. We don't prejudge. There's way too much thinking, way too much faffing around trying to think of what will be the best adjustment you can make to your animation. In the time that you waste thinking about what might be the best thing to do right now, you could have tried 10 different things. Okay, so that's the workflow here. Let's just look at this.
Printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was...
Wasn't bad.
Article from Yahoo Health.
All right, it's a little early.
Article from Yahoo Health. It was...
You know what actually the problem is? I think the... From Yahoo... Yeah, it's going down at the right speed, but it's not going...
Yahoo Health.
It needs to go down sooner and hold down, and then pop up. Hold on a second.
From Yahoo Health, it was article from Yahoo Health. It was all. Yahoo Health.
And this is useless. All right, here we go.
Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. Printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
And so here's one thing that I want to point out. Health, and it was all about. So this is one of those moments that in beginner animation I see without fail. These two beats are going to be completely blended together, okay? And they should not be. From Yahoo Health, it was all about enabling. Take a close look at what's going on here. With these keyframes right here, interacting with, just look at, just if you can, just think about what these will turn into when you spline something. As if this is an amazingly strong pose, and this is an amazingly strong pose that's different, what happens in between? In normal workflows, in normal pose-emphasized workflows, you're going to get just muddiness in there.
We had an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And from Yahoo Health, it was all about enabling.
So what you need to do is you need to decide right now what the timing is going to be on that transition. And to do so, you might have to add a breakdown, but what you're gifting yourself later in terms of clarity and timing is well worth the extra trouble right now.
Yahoo Health, it was all about enabling. Yahoo Health, it was.
So I think I'm going to get rid of this key. Which one is it? Okay, it's this one. And I'm going to add something else that gives us a better understanding of what that transition is going to be. Okay? Because what phrasing means is the explicit decision to keep ideas separated, That at the end of the day is the goal of phrasing. All right? It's not the for the purposes of animating a scene, it is not the different poses and how the poses make the ideas clearly shift and change in front of the audience's eye. It is the timing. It is the separation of ideas by the sort of like their temporal existence, creating an idea that starts and ends in this amount of time, and then a new idea starting, clearly a new idea starting, and then finishing at another point in time. All right? Phrasing is all about separating periods of time and not poses. And now you do that so that when you put your poses in, they just work. They will work miraculously. They will work almost as a side effect of good timing. But it should be known that phrasing with tempo is this process that I'm doing right now, which is identifying beforehand what are those different ideas going to be, and what do I need to add to what I'm seeing to make it so that the timing it will never be mistaken, will never be anything but clear as day. Okay, so let's look one more time at this thing between Yahoo Health and let's make that phrase really exist on its own. It's a beat within a phrase. The entire first line is a phrase, but phrasing deals with also keeping those thoughts very clear within the phrase. The whole thing is phrasing.
From Yahoo Health, it was all about enabling. Had an article from Yahoo Health, it was all about enabling.
Okay. So let's just try this head up pose. That's on 73 right now. Let's just try it 2 frames later. Now, remember, experimentation. I don't know what that just did. I seriously don't know. If you think that I'm making these choices ahead of time, and when it looks good, I'm just like, Mr. Hotshot, and I'm just kind of trying to pass off the idea that, I'm just experimenting. I'm just going to throw these keys in, and then it looks better, and like, I'm so good. It's totally not. I promise. I just made a change that I have no idea what it's going to look like. And when it looks better, it's tempo. It's not me that did it. It's tempo. It's tempo is showing me better animation, and I'm just good enough an animator that I know better animation when I see it. All right? Same as you. You know better animation when you see it. Okay. So I've talked long enough that I've forgotten what the first one looked like, the first version. So now 2 frames later on the head up on the next phrase, the beginning of the next phrase.
Yahoo Health, it was all about enabling.
All right, let's try 2 frames later. I'm not going to, sometimes in tempo, I don't even let myself form a complete opinion on what I see. That's advanced tempo. So experimenting and then just watching it like an audience member and then taking the better one. Dude, do like 4 or 5 and move it around before you form a complete opinion on any of them. And then choose. All right, check it out.
Article from Yahoo Health, it was all about enabling. And Jimmy printed me out an article from Yahoo Health, it was all about enabling. And I realized at that point,
hold on a second.
Me had an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I
2
realized
frames
at that
back.
point, I cannot continue to submit an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, me had an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot
1 frame later.
Article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I made an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized me had an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
3 frames
and
earlier.
I realized at that point.
This is the original place.
Me had an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I read an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
One frame
And
later.
I realized he printed me out an article from Yahoo Health.
This is one
Printed
frame.
me out an article from Yahoo Health.
This is one frame. This is one frame later than original.
Printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
This is 2 frames. This is the first. This is back to the first experiment I did.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
Oh, I just heard now as Jamie, not Jimmy. Interesting.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot continue. Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about. Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was. Jamie printed me out an article. Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. From Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. It was all about enabling.
I think that is the best one. Now, I'm not positive. I'm going to try one frame. Let me do 2 frames earlier, one more time, and then 1 frame, and then settle back into it and make sure that I like it the best.
We had an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
Too early.
Article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
And now back to what I said I just liked.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
It's actually 1 frame too late. 1 frame earlier. So this is actually 2. This is actually 3 frames later than it was before I started experimenting. But I've tried every single frame between this and 5 frames later, like twice. And so what is that? That's like 20 experiments.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
Okay. Now, the last thing that we're going to do to iron this decision in, is to make it so that we have a timing cue that tells us where this transition starts. Okay, so I'm going to go 2 frames before. I'm just going to do it wherever I am right now because I can move it around, right? Who cares? And put just a tiny little bit of anticipation on this. All right, and now I have this to play around with. Let's do this exact same thing.
An article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. From Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
This really didn't turn out to be much of a anticipation, did it?
It was all about.
Here we go. Okay.
From Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot. Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
All right. So this is the right moment. We settled into this as the right moment for the extreme of that pose. Now let's figure out exactly how long this hold is on health. Okay? Let's try it out.
Article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
2 frames earlier.
And I realized at that point, I cannot. Printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. Printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. Printed me out an article.
Let's try something crazy, like 6 frames earlier.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
All right. So isn't this crazy? Look how much. I'm going to show you this one and then 8 frames later. So it's going to be a big change. Notice this. Notice how you hear him. You hear 2 different things. You hear literally 2 different things. In the first one, which I'm about to show you, you hear him run the words together. And then listen how with the second one where I do a long hold, there actually feels like there's more time between the word health and the next phrase. Okay? Watch this. When you animate it run together, it feels run together. Watch this.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
Now watch this.
Printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
You see that? It's two extremely different feelings of that. So let's split the difference. Just see what it looks like. I don't know what this is going to do. I don't know. Let's watch
Jamie
together.
printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
I seem to like it with a more separated phrasing.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
One frame later.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
One frame later.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
One frame later.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling.
That's making his. That's I kind of like this. I'm back and forth between this and one frame earlier. I don't want to go too early over here, but somewhere around this range is best for the length of that hold that I like on the word health. But if I go too long, it just makes this motion too fast. So what I can do is I can either tone down the amount of anticipation, or I can make another change. So let's see.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized...
One more frame earlier.
Jamie printed me out an article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot...
I love that.
Jamie printed me out...
I love that. That's the best.
Article from Yahoo Health. It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I cannot... It was all about enabling. And I realized at that point, I can't...
Okay. So this is actually where we're going to stop this lecture. And so this is what I'm going to do. We are going to take this shot all the way through this month. I'm going to be posting a video mail probably in not next week, but the week after. That is the in progress of this. And it will be a little bit longer than a normal video mail, just because it needs to be. And then the August lecture will be polishing this shot. My hope is that some of the 11 Second Club members will join us for the Anim Gym in August, and that tempo will be a little bit more talked about. And so if you are a KennyRoy.com member that has been around for a while, I would appreciate if you go over to the 11 Second Club, where I'm going to actually post a play blast of this tempo pass and take questions and make comments. The 11 Second Club forums and the work in progress forum isn't extremely active, but there you go. Might as well do it, right? So we're going to end it right there. But just to recap, the most essential part of phrasing is to understand that to separate the ideas that are coming across in a shot, you have to work the timing. And the poses we're normally posing extremes, but those extremes never come, anywhere but normally like in the middle or towards the middle of the ideas. And so to blend between those with a normal workflow typically means just muddying it up. But with tempo, we have the ability to experiment early on with how these phrases are going to actually blend together. And as long as we do our experiments, and we're not afraid to go to go to lengths to see every single possibility that there is for an idea, then we're going to see a lot more ideas than you would with any other workflow, which means presumably you're going to come up with the strongest idea. So phrasing with tempo is actually maybe perhaps one of the easiest to take advantage of benefits of tempo itself. Timing as a whole is super strong with tempo because it's the emphasis, but phrasing over and above like a pose to pose workflow, phrasing is like cake. is so easy to get. I don't know why cake is easy to get, but my analogies are starting to fall apart. So again, so this is going to be a little bit of an experiment. I appreciate my KennyRoy.com members going along with this experiment, trying to do a little bit of like a run-up a series of lectures and video mails to bring tempo to the world. But anything you can do to kind of bring a little bit of awareness to this and help me out by commenting on the 11 Second Club forums, I would appreciate it. That'll do it for today. I've had a lot of fun. Looking forward to finishing the shot with you guys. Let's all do the 11 Second Club together. I think there's at least a dozen of you that have been participating in the Anim Gym on and off that have the chops to put together an 11-second shot out of 3-second shots, and this one is really nicely chopped up for that purpose. So let's do it together. All right, that'll do it. I'm Kenny Roy. Good luck with your animation. As always, rock on.